For more on this conversation, we're now joined by a business rescue practitioner, Mahier Tayob, and he joins us via our video link. Mahier, thank you so much for joining us this evening here in SABC News. Of course, we saw the bad news when it pertains to Rea Vaya following that court judgment in the Gauteng High Court. One would ask, let's backtrack here a bit and just give us the background here. When did the problems start at Rea Vaya?
Well, Bali, good evening to you and to your viewers. The problem appears to have been chronic. It seems to have stemmed back as far as 2015. It could be longer, but based on the audit reports that I've read, it appears to have commenced as far back as 2015 and ongoing to such an extent that internal auditors have raised concerns regarding the operations and the manner in which the company was trading. The auditors themselves have raised a concern regarding the sustainability of the business model. So this is not something that just happened upon the entity. As I said, it became chronic, and it was chronic.
And as you begin to conduct these investigations, one would ask, in trying to recoup some of the losses made at Rea Vaya, how extensive will this investigation be?
Well, the investigation is going to be quite extensive. There will be deep dives in every single expense, and wherever the company may have lost funds, either through negligence, misrepresentation, fraud, I am duty bound to recover these funds from the delinquent parties. Insofar as the extent is concerned, it's too early days for me to determine the quantity or the quantum.
And many are asking, these buses or Piotrans and the Rea Vaya buses are technically owned by the shareholders being the taxi drivers. When you look back at the history, these are taxi drivers who gave up some of their routes, when Rea Vaya was introduced. How will they be compensated for the losses which, has been made through Rea Vaya?
So, Bali, part of the problem is that these shareholders were already compensated through creditor funds. For example, 60 million or 70 million per annum was already paid to them in the purport of ROT payments, which is restraint of trade payments. And this in fact was dividends. SARS conducted an audit and found that these payments were in fact capital in nature, and they were dividend payments, not deductible expenses, resulting in a 60 million rand tax liability for the company. So they were just poor management. The board of directors could have approached the senior counsel to establish the best way in which to deal with this. So although the shareholders are prejudiced at the moment, so too are the creditors, and we have to balance the rights of all of the parties.
What is the possibility of this contract now being placed in the hands of anyone who will be bidding to take over Rea Vaya, if initially this was a project meant to be given to the shareholders who presumably were taxi drivers in the city of Johannesburg? So,
Bali, there are various proposals that could be made in business rescue. For example, dilution of the shareholders' shares, individual shares, or the sale of the company, which I will avoid at all costs, because I do believe it could be rehabilitated and it will be placed back to an independent board of directors for the benefit of the shareholders. But we must also be mindful of the city of Johannesburg's mandate, in which we must ensure that commuters are not disrupted at all. It's not only about the company making money, there's a bigger picture to this as well. And we must be very, very mindful of that.
Can this bus rapid transport system be saved? You are saying that that's your number one priority at this moment. Can the Rea Vaya bus system in Johannesburg be saved?
I do believe it can be saved for the following reasons. So the hemorrhaging has stopped, so there's no longer bleeding of the funds. And let me give you, just by way of an example, 2 weeks ago, there were only 15 buses on the road. Today, there were 29 buses on the road, with another 6 being added on, and hopefully in a week or so, another 11 So we will already be at 46 buses, which is almost 3 times the buses that were there 3 weeks ago. I will also interrogate every single claim. And once these claims have been interrogated and they are credible, then I will ask the creditors for a payment holiday. And with the funds that we have and we derive the profits, we want to replow it back into the business, derive further profits, and from those profits, pay out the creditors while simultaneously paying out some of the shareholders as well. But my immediate concern is the 13th check for the employees. That is my immediate concern, apart from not disrupting services to our commuters.
And when it comes to the services for commuters, I mean, one would say that those who actually make use of the Rea Vaya bus system is the working class. And, you know, they will be going back to work, you know, very soon. And, you know, can they be assured that there will be no disruption here when it comes to the Rea Vaya bus system? And how is it able to still operate? I mean, you are saying that not so long ago, you know, there were fewer buses on the roads and you've managed to get them back on the routes once again. You know, how's it able to continue with its operations despite it being placed under business rescue?
So there's a two-part question that you asked. The first one is, how is it going to continue to operate? So it will continue to operate because there's proper management in place. Now, to answer that, I've already, as early as today, secured a facility for 14 million rand with a fuel supplier. And that will assist us to make sure that we on track with fuel. And then secondly, insofar as the giving you some form of undertaking that the services will continue, that exactly will help us because I have the buy-in of the MMC of transport. I also have the buy-in of the city of Johannesburg. So with the different stakeholders coming together, this is exactly where it will help us. I will take care of the administration. I will take care of the operations for the time being. The city will give us all of the other, what should I say, the help, the assistance that would require. The city is also employing a firm of attorneys who will protect their interest. And this, in turn, will only strengthen what we are trying to do collectively.
And earlier on, you spoke about bus drivers, and we do understand that even earlier this year, some of those bus drivers, you know, were on strike about the conditions and, you know, them not receiving their paychecks on time, and you are concerned about that 13th check as well. You know, can we be assured that those bus drivers, who also seem to be very concerned, you know, because of their jobs and their livelihoods, you know, will they be able to retain rather their jobs?
Yes, I do want them to retain their jobs. I also want to ensure that they're paid on time. I mean, of course, they have debit orders, they have expenses that must be met, and the irregular payments that have been consummated in the past is unacceptable. The 13th check is exactly what I'm working on now, so that I can show that there was good faith and get the buy-in of the employees as well. Insofar as the other sectors are concerned, or other fragments within the organization, I am proceeding with KPAs and KPIs, and I will insist on performance agreements so that the employees treat this as a business and not a business that's in the public sphere and treated the way it as a civil servant, but it's got to be treated in a private sector so that they too can share in the profits, hopefully.
And from
I do want to propose certain aspects where the employees also share in these profits. So if their buy-in is there and the unions, I think we could salvage this. My only concern is any form of sabotage, and that's a real threat. It happens across the board. Thus far, nothing. Thank God for that. But it's also a real threat, and it's a real fear to me.
And I know that you've outlined the processes that will be followed to make sure that Rea Vaya works. But wanted to also ask immediately, you know, what will be done to ensure that it is sustainable and it is a working model that can last as it was intended?
So ordinarily, in a situation of business rescue, you'd start top down, you get your administration in order, and then you go towards operations. In this case, we're starting bottom up because we're making sure that the operations are intact, making sure that we have a constant supply of fuel, constant supply of tires, making sure the vehicles are safe so that these vehicles can be put onto the roads. And when that happens, it's going to be consistent. The administration side of it will run parallel, but not to the extent and speed that we want it to. We will concentrate heavily on the operations for now. That is exactly what brought this company onto its knees, and I think it's time to rebuild it.
So thank you so much for your time here in SABC News. That is Mahier Tayob. He is the business rescue practitioner. They're talking to us about the conversation when it comes to trying to save the Rea Vaya bus system in the city of Johannesburg.